Is that your version of the soundtrack to Blade Runner?
Yeah, it's like a distorted whale call. That's essentially what the soundtrack is, right? It's like someone went deep sea diving, heard some whales above them, recorded the sound,
and then recreated it with a synth, and then added
exactly
like the sound of the rudder from the boat. It's just a fishing show. The entirety of Blade Runner is just about fish.
But Blade Runner is the topic. I guess we're starting now.
Yeah, yep.
No before discussion like usual. No like.
Maybe this is the before discussion.
I guess, but it's
we need to give the comments something to complain about.
It's about Blade Runner, the beginning discussion.
We need to give them the click here to actually start the episode.
Yeah.
That's what I live for.
Click here to actually... The episode actually starts here.
There's also I thought this was the D Club. There's...
Has anyone done the episode actually starts here and then they just put the end time code for the video?
Oh, damn. That would make me sad.
Would it? Well, that's what I was going to do.
No, YouTube comments don't make me sad anymore.
Because I mean...
You've seen everything.
Well, I mean, it's just the internet. It's just a big message board. You can't put a whole lot of emotion into it, into the messages, into what you're making, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But I used to have a problem with reading comments and getting too...
Well, it's a natural thing. You want to know how people feel about the stuff you've made.
Yeah, but the people being assholes don't actually care about the product.
No, and they're hard to sift out from the people that actually care.
They don't care
even
about
if they're being negative. There's people that care, and they're like, oh, like this one didn't do it for me, and that's there. It's just hard to sift through YouTube comments for that.
But we're nothing but a brand tied to a bigger brand.
Right. Well, it's all corporate.
You as Barry Kramer are a brand.
I'm just an actor.
I'm Ryan McGee, self-declared brand.
I'm a brand. like you can buy in a store. Anyway,
that's what Twitter is. People just they're just selling their
personal brands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Does that ties in kind of
Blade Runner 2048.
Yes.
Also known as the knockoff of Blade Runner 3s. That's the joke I came up with earlier.
Okay, nice. Good job, Barry.
I brought it all around.
So you're starting it off strong. I love it.
All right, good night, folks.
This is obviously, it's the sequel to Blade Runner.
It's not a fucking remake.
No, it's not a remake. It's not a reboot.
There's no reason. So we should say that we literally just came from the theater.
Yeah.
We've never done this before.
No.
We went to the movie theater.
Which I like. I like it.
It felt like a field trip.
Yes.
We left work, went to the movies, sat there for a week, and watched the movie, and then came back.
Yeah, we're going to stay here till late at night.
Right, talking about Blade Runner. But yeah, it's a sequel, and it's a sequel to a movie that I think it's fair to say no one wanted a sequel to.
Yeah.
Because the first movie ends ambiguously, and that fits in with a lot of its themes.
Well, it's kind of like hearing that a sequel's going to come out for a huge class. Well, it is like huge.
It is the exact same thing. It did not do well in the box office, and it was only later with, VHS releases and then later DVD. And
the fan base took off with
the director's cut.
And the final cut. And
I've never seen the final cut. I've only seen the director's cut.
I saw the one where there was
final cut was like
narration.
2000. That's the theatrical cut.
Okay.
That's the shitty version.
I saw that when I was in college during, we were taking a...
Was it like a film class?
Yeah, it was a film class. We were learning about... oh, fuck. I just blanked. We were talking about noir.
Oh, noir. Yeah.
Yeah, film noir. And so that was a perfect film to kind of look at, how does noir translate into a film that doesn't come particularly from that era.
Right. It's definitely film noir, but it's not a gumshoe detective in Los Angeles in the 30s. It's
no, definitely not.
But it takes a lot of visual cues from that, and I think the sequel does as well.
Oh, yeah. Especially with no spoilers, but especially with the opening scene. There were a lot of shots that very much triggered the whole, noir.
There were a number of scenes in the movie where because a big thing about film noir as a visual genre of film is light. And a lot of early film noir movies were obviously black and white. That's like the stereotypical, I'm a detective. Like even GameGrumps, we did a Mike Aruba shirt commercial and we shot it, and then we shot with the intent that it would be in black and white.
Yeah.
So I remember editing it, and there's individual shots. There's a shot where Dan is at his detective desk, and we had something on his table lit up because we wanted to have it be a focal point. I don't know. This is not related at all. Just something that reminded me of. And so we had the room lit with softboxes, which have a very yellowish warm tone to them. And then we used an iPhone flashlight to light up the thing of interest on his desk. So when you're watching the footage, it looks disgusting. You have this like bluish light mashing with all this yellow light.
But then black
and white, it's fucking gorgeous. And you're like, oh yeah, like that's where I should look. And like that, like everything looks better in black and white if it's lit well.
That's why a lot of movies are coming out with the black and white versions, like Mad Max Fury Road. Then you got
I haven't
Logan.
seen that, but
Logan came out with the black and white version.
Did they?
Which I haven't seen the black and white version, which I really want to, which is interesting. Just because those two movies in particular, especially Logan, they're filmed with heavy shadows, and the lighting is very important to the cinematography as well. Of course, just with Blade Runner 2049, the lighting is
well, that was my original point. Was like there's so many amazing moments of just cinematography and lighting, and just like I imagine at least there will be a fan edit that's just like, here's the movie in black and white, just because it'll work. You just know it'll work having watched that movie. It's a visual feast.
It is a beautiful film.
You know,
like, you know, there's that saying where it's like, oh, you could take, you know, a frame out of this film and put it
on your wall.
Put it on your wall. Like I said that about certain Breaking Bad episodes, of course, with the cinematography, and I mean, of course, that speaks true here. There's a reason that saying exists, and this movie is a great indication of why it exists.
Man, Roger Deakins, cinematographer legend.
Of course, like for the beginning, we're gonna try, of course, and not spoil things. We're gonna keep it very general.
I think we will get into spoilers.
We will eventually,
because it's almost impossible to really have a deep conversation about it. But
for this beginning part,
we'll let you know. We'll make it very, very obvious when we're gonna dive into spoilers.
And I'm sure in the description.
But we're probably gonna spoil the original one.
Yeah,
because we're talking about Blade Runner.
We're talking about Blade Runner 2049.
But yeah, the original one I saw, I think around college. I was telling you earlier, I have a sordid personal history with Blade Runner.
Yeah, you didn't tell me what it was. So what's your sordid history?
It's just what I associate with Blade Runner, which is nothing with the film. But when I was studying abroad in China...
holy shit, I forgot that you did that.
Yeah, in college, I spent 4 months in Shanghai.
I just spent all my life in South Carolina, then moved to Los Angeles. So.
I've been around the world, damn. There was a girl in the program that I had a crush on. And one day we were talking, and somehow Blade Runner came up, but she'd never seen it. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a good movie. So I went to a weird bootleg DVD stall, and they had a copy of Blade Runner, and invited her over to my apartment. And I was like, oh man, like we're gonna watch Blade Runner, maybe like we'll get to know her better or something. And my roommate came out and watched the movie with us, and like halfway through I looked over, and my roommate and this girl were making out.
What?
Yeah. And
whoa. Sorry to take away from the Blade Runner review, Barry.
Yeah. And
there's a girl in your class that you have a crush on.
Yeah.
Are you in the same class with your friend?
Well, yeah, we all came to China.
This is a sad story.
Well, sure.
This is like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
The frustrating thing, besides the obvious, is that he knew that I had a crush on her because I drunkenly admitted it one night, and he made fun of me for it. It was like a whole thing.
And so
and then they made out, and then later they left and went into his room.
I'm sure they did nothing in there, Barry.
Yeah, they just played patty cake in the nude.
No, Barry.
So. Yeah, that was a fun time.
Oh my God.
So whenever I think of Blade Runner, I think of that. So I'm just like, oh yeah.
Was it a sour experience then?
No, it was a wonderful, affirmative experience in my young life, and that's what I think of when I think of Blade Runner.
Is this every time someone's like, so wait, have you seen Blade Runner, Barry?
It's actually the second thing I think of. I think of the Tears and Rain monologue. So yeah, that's like when I sit down and think about Blade Runner, that's where my mind goes. Mm-hmm. Just giving you my own personal my backstory.
When I think about Blade Runner, I think about all like hearing about this movie that everyone is like, it's a masterpiece, it's this great movie, and then I saw it finally in college, the theatrical cut. And
wait, they showed you the theatrical cut for your class?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, because I think
your professor hate Blade Runner?
I think a part of it was because we were doing the lessons on noir and it had narration, so they were kind of just trying to pick the version that
except that's like a trope of the genre. That's not like part of what is. I don't know. I'm not a fucking film
professor.
theorist. Yeah.
But
that's dumb.
It is dumb.
I've seen the theatrical cut and I've seen the director's cut, and it's like. It is a lot better. Like,
is it like
because you have these moments
monumentously better. Like, is there so many things that are that different?
So I mean,
because I just sat in a
2049
dark projector room and watched Blade Runner. And like, first off, the first Blade Runner, I enjoyed it. Like, it was like visually, it was like really cool, and I like the story. I like the themes of it. The themes interested me.
Right.
I got bored during it, and I just it didn't sink in with me that much.
I would say at least part of that is the theatrical cut.
Okay.
Because it doesn't give you time to process anything.
Okay.
You know, like 2049, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. This is a long movie. And a lot of it is a lot of very slow shots, just of people walking, people thinking. Mm-hmm. It's not this high octane thriller, every 10 seconds something's jumping at you. A lot of that is lifted from the pacing of the first movie. There's a lot of scenes of just Deckard driving his car, and the music plays, and there's rain. Like, that's this sort of film noir aesthetic.
Yeah.
On top of just I had to see what was going on in this part of town. Like,
the pacing is also super intentional, because in the slow pacedness, I guess you would call it, in the movie, there's a lot of information to take in. I'm not talking about
and that's true in the original as well.
Not like characters going this. I'm talking about like within the set design and the characters just glances or sound or anything within the scene. It's you have to just take it in and like build it. Right. It's not like, this is what it is.
Right. It's not literally, not everything in the movie is explicitly told to you, and that's the same thing in the original movie.
Except for sometimes, of course, but
it's still a movie. It's not a like art house flick that's all metaphor. There is a lot of metaphor, but
it wasn't like Mother.
I haven't seen Mother.
Oh man.
But I have seen Aronofsky movies, so I know what to expect.
Yeah, what a trip.
Could
you imagine if he directed this?
Oh my God. It would have just been a fever dream.
How odd it would have been.
After seeing The Fountain, I think it was The Fountain, right? I
thought people got sick of him after The Fountain.
Well, I had to spend like an hour reading IMDb message boards to understand what the plot was.
Okay, is that with Hugh Jackman?
That was Hugh Jackman and was it Rachel Weisz? I think. But that's a great movie, but I left that movie going, I don't know what happened. But no, so Blade Runner is not like confusing. There's just a lot of slow burn narrative moments, and the narration takes away from that in the original theatrical cut. It's Deckard explicitly telling you, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I gotta do next. And as a viewer, you're deprived of that experience of like figuring out yourself and putting pieces together and following these characters through the story. IMHO. Mm-hmm. You know, it's I'm not like a film buff per se.
Yeah.
But I
like movies.
I like movies. I'm more of a game analyst guy than a movie analyst guy, but there are certain movies that I really like digging into and just sort of, you know, Blade Runner is the kind of movie that you need to have a conversation about. You can't just, it's not a popcorn movie. I
usually just go to like Reddit official discussion boards or something for when a movie comes out. Sure. Just to see what people think. Of course, after I see the movie, but I don't know.
Did you read anything about Blade Runner?
That's what I loved. Like I thought I remembered being up to date with all the trailers that came out and everything. But apparently, I guess the trailers didn't ruin anything about the movie's plot, or
there were entire characters in this movie that I don't remember seeing in a damn trailer.
Like a lot of this movie, I was pleasantly surprised throughout most of it, because I didn't like, nothing was really spoiled for me. You said you saw like some of the shorts that came out. I didn't see any of them.
Yeah, so
there
were
came out to
three
help
shorts
explain some of the backstory.
Yes, and so there were 2 live action shorts and an anime short.
Anime?
Yeah, it was by the guy who did Cowboy Bebop. Ooh. So it's really impressive and cool animation. It kind of reminded me of the Animatrix. I don't know if you ever watched any of those shorts. You know of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was like the anthology from the Matrix that like was like all these weird little side stories. And it's about one plot point that a character in 2049 is like, well, this happened back in this year, as they're walking around. You might remember the scene. And it's like, it's not a plot point we needed. It's the same thing with the other 2 live action shorts. It's not plot points we need in the movie. It just kind of like everything else in the movie. It was clearly thought out.
Is that a Ridley Scott thing though?
I don't know.
Because he did that with Alien. He did that with, I think...
he did it with Prometheus, too.
He did it with Prometheus. He did it with Alien Covenant. Because Alien Covenant... You could... At least with Alien Covenant, with the stuff that was just a short and not part of the actual movie, the stuff that was in the short, I feel like should have been in the movie. Was there anything about these shorts that you're like, I get this. Like, did it ever seem like this was something
was in the movie that they didn't cut out?
Yeah, for time because it would have been fucking 3 hours.
No.
Okay.
I think they were designed to be shorts.
Okay, and Ridley Scott also didn't direct this too.
No, it was Denis Villeneuve,
who is amazing.
Well, I've only seen Arrival, and I enjoyed.
You've only seen Arrival?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except it was weird for me because
you haven't seen Sicario. Sicario, I think, is. I was about to name favorites, but all of a sudden I started thinking about the other stuff that he's done. I haven't seen Enemy yet, which I still need to see with Jake Gyllenhaal. But overall, just his direction.
I've only heard good things about him.
His direction is.
I hope he just works with Roger Deakins forever because this was a gorgeous movie.
He proved that you can have a good reboot or like a good sequel of an old property.
Right. Well, that's
what
I was saying earlier.
A good sequel of an old property.
This is a sequel no one wanted, and there was zero expectation it would actually be good, and it was good.
Really good. It was its own movie. It's like I'm not like you don't have to see the original Blade Runner.
Yes.
To enjoy this film.
No, and everything that does tie in with the first movie, they do I think, good job of letting you in.
It doesn't feel like they're throwing up information to be like.
Well, there's a couple.
You remember in the first Jurassic Park when the rides went crazy and then all the dinosaurs went into some city.
Here, I have the security cam footage, which is the same as the footage from the movie.
The Hershey's bars, Jurassic Park.
They kind of do that a little bit in Blade Runner. Not to that crazy extent, but there are a couple exposition dumps to be like,
of course.
Hey, if you didn't remember the first movie, here you go. But then also like they go back.
But it didn't feel like an excuse for them to be like, we didn't include this. How do we get this information in there? Just have them say it.
And there were a couple nods to the first movie that, I don't know, like I'm usually pretty sensitive about references for the sake of references, where it's like, hey, remember this? And it felt like there were a couple in this movie. It felt like there were a couple like, hey, remember this? But
we'll have to talk about later, I'm guessing.
I think we'll get into later. I mean, it's nothing really spoilery, but just like little nods and references throughout the movie.
That felt like kind of like that took you out of it in a way where it's like.
It didn't take me out of it, but it sort of felt like this wasn't necessary given that they did such a good job recreating this world from the ground up.
We're not talking as bad as Dan Aykroyd appearing in the new Ghostbusters.
I never saw the new Ghostbusters.
Oh my God.
I saw the Plinkett review of Ghostbusters.
Dan Aykroyd shows up and he's like, he literally he drives by and he goes, I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Does he say that?
Yeah.
But does he go, where's my check in the shot?
He's like a cab driver or something, and like everyone's freaking out, and like he's like, well, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. It's like,
Isn't Bill Murray in it too?
Yeah, but he gets flung out a window.
Does he say, I also am not afraid of ghosts?
He goes, this is a funny movie.
Thank you, Sony, for making this happen. Did you notice in the very beginning of the movie when they had like the Warner Brothers thing roll out and like, I don't know, Columbia, like all of like the logos for those different studios are rolling out and they all have this like glitchy effect on them.
Yeah.
And then Sony comes out and there's no glitches on it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I
didn't pay attention to that.
Does Sony not want to have a glitchy logo? Everyone else had a glitchy logo.
Because they let their subsidiary, which is Columbia Pictures, have that glitchy logo.
They had a really
100%.
Cool glitchy logo.
Oh, yeah.
That was really neat. But
so, like,
the Sony was just like,
odd.
Sony. It was like, everything else is all green and glitchy. It felt weird to me.
The only thing that would have been better is if they also included the TriStar.
Oh my God.
But of course.
Well, yeah, that's something we can talk about in the spoiler section of the podcast. But yeah, I mean, overall, it didn't feel like, hey, remember the first one? But there were a couple moments that were like a little bit on the nose, but
on the nose, but it didn't feel like it wasn't roll your eyes bad.
No, like there were a couple moments in Force Awakens where they were like, "Hey, remember this?"
Like that's blatant,
like the chessboard where you're just like, "That didn't need to happen."
Yeah.
And I feel like Blade Runner is a weird.
Wait, are you saying Force Awakens was fan service?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I liked Force Awakens.
Are you saying when Han Solo and Chewie appear on ship to what is essentially audience applause and a curtain like coming out,
and then text on screen saying Harrison Ford as Han Solo?
Yep.
But yeah, I what was I gonna say? Oh.
How stuff didn't take you out of the movie?
Yeah, there was another thingy though. It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Or it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like all my opinions.
Yeah. But okay, another thing that I'll just mention because I'm trying to hit off all the kind of general topics, so we can hit specific scenes that I want to get into scene that I want to talk about.
It's hard to talk vague.
But the performances were all great. I was telling you on the right here that there were two specific actors, Ana de Armas, who played the
the girlfriend type character. Yes.
And then there was Dave Bautista, who was in
Bautista. Dave Bautista. Bow before the Tista.
Grind. He just should be in a Gears of War something. He looks like he's ripped out of Gears of War.
Well,
he could play Marcus Phoenix
MMA
easily.
He was
MMA.
He's
I think he was beast. MMA. Yeah,
he was in was it Spectre? One of the Bond movies.
I can't remember.
And he was just like kind of like a dumb henchman kind of guy. He just showed up and punched a lot, and I was like, all right. And then with Guardians and with this, you're like, hey, this guy can act.
Well, like Guardians was a different type. Like that's like a comic book character, but this he had to be a little more subtle.
Oh,
and I was surprised.
You should watch the short. There's a short that revolves around his character.
I want to watch that. That's the short that I'm more interested. You told me not everything about the 3 shorts, but you told me what the 3 shorts were, of course.
Yeah.
And that one is the one that interests me the most.
Yeah, so the 2 live action shorts I think are just on YouTube on different channels.
Okay.
And then the animated one is on Crunchyroll. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so there's one live action short that is about Dave Bautista's character,
yeah.
And the other one is about Jared Leto's character, because neither of them really gets a lot of screen time in the movie. Minor spoiler alert. I mean, just like you kind of get like a little bit of here's their character.
Well, that's just kind of like characters in this movie, unless you're unless you're like the main character, the protagonist.
Right.
Your screen time is only dependent on what you have to give to the story.
Right.
Like, right here in like
and
the reaction, I guess.
It should probably go without saying that a nearly 3-hour movie, it's a pretty big movie. There's a lot of characters and locations and things. And
the point that I was going to make.
Yes.
Ana de Armas.
Yes.
She's been in like movies and I haven't been impressed with her that much.
She looks familiar, but I don't know what I've seen her in.
She was like I think it was called Knock Knock.
Yeah, I don't even know.
It was, what is it? Yeah, Knock Knock. It was an Eli Roth film. She was in War Dogs. I saw that. She always just seemed like a scream, like she would be perfect for a scream queen type of role.
She's just like a pretty face and a decent actor, but just kind of getting the job done.
Yeah, I mean, just from what I've seen of her in the past, and here she did well.
Yeah,
as I said, John, my buddy John, did a good job.
John who?
Bautista.
Dave Bautista.
We're good friends, can't you see? I call him John.
Right. He doesn't get the joke, but
but like those two actors, like
that Ryan Gosling kicked ass.
Ryan Gosling always kicks ass.
I was telling you earlier that like, you know, obviously in Drive, just it's so good movie.
Of course, everyone.
But I wasn't.
Everyone nuts to that movie.
I wasn't feeling him in La La Land, which is another movie everyone nutted to.
Yeah.
I don't.
Have you seen Blue Valentine?
No, I have not.
I like Blue Valentine.
I'm not a huge Ryan Gosling fan. I also don't really buy into that aspect of celebrity culture. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. It's like I don't see movies because an actor I like is in them. That's not the reason I'll go see a movie.
But I think he has the best of both worlds. He distinctly he's in movies and people want to see him because he's Ryan Gosling. He's like a heartthrob, but also he's been in a lot
Also, he's a really good actor.
He's been in legitimately good films and can act.
Yes.
Can actually act and emote.
I just feel like movies like Drive and Blade Runner 2049 are like where he shines.
Yeah, you said the subtlety is where he shines.
It gives him that slow burn. I don't think he operates well in a super fast bing movie.
Oh, have you seen Nice Guys?
No, I heard that was good though. Shit, I forgot.
He was actually. I think you might like him.
That was him and Russell Crowe.
Yeah. So I mean, if you haven't seen him in any, okay, I guess.
Also, I don't see a whole lot of movies. So.
Have you seen Lars and the Real Girl?
Nope.
There are a lot of Ryan Gosling movies that are good that you have.
Maybe I just haven't seen all the good Ryan. I've only seen the really shitty ones.
Well, you've seen Crazy Stupid Love,
probably.
And
wasn't he The Notebook? Wasn't that his big thing?
That's where he like got started, isn't it? Not where he got his main start, but that's what boosted him up.
Propelled him to stardom.
Yeah, he's a star, baby.
Yeah,
you're a star, Ryan. That's what my mom said to me.
It just makes me think of
once she found out I was a YouTube celeb.
Makes me think of the end of Boogie Nights. Just all right.
But
yeah, there were a lot of really, really good performances. Jared Leto, that was all right. Again, not a whole lot of them.
I think the only other thing I've seen him in was Dallas Buyers Club.
Well, the one
because I haven't seen Requiem for a Dream, which shame on me. I should get to seeing that soon.
That's a movie that you need to just hug someone the entire movie.
Or you're alone at nighttime and you have nowhere to be the next morning.
No. It's funny because pretty much everyone I know that's seen Requiem for a Dream has the same disclaimer, like see it with loved ones, like
see it with loved ones.
See it and like give people hugs, you
I
know?
like being sad alone though.
And then it's like and then everyone who gives that advice has watched the movie alone by themselves and regretted it. Like myself.
But that's part of it because you can feel that great sense of...
That movie makes you feel so bad. It's so good.
I love feeling that. Like, I hate it. Like, I'm like, why did they do that? Like, have you seen The Mist, Barry?
I think so. No. But I've seen a lot of stuff about it. You're just kind of blankly staring at me now.
Just because my points are mute if I can't get across.
Then there's an audience listening, Ryan.
Well, I mean,
they'll probably be like, "Yeah, I've seen that."
Well, yeah, but like, there's endings like the end of The Mist.
I know the ending of The Mist.
Where I just feel disgusting. Right. And I like that because it's like I'm glad it wasn't wrapped up in a bow.
Well, yeah, I think we don't like cliche stories.
Just getting tired of them. Just getting really tired.
And there's a lot of them. And we live in a society where our pop culture is all self-referential, meta, remake, postmodernism nonsense. And, you know, when we get something that's genuinely heartfelt or just at least original, even though we're talking about a fucking sequel to a movie from the 80s. Like, it's like, this isn't original, but it has a lot of tonal and plot qualities that you just don't see in a lot of big budget productions.
I don't see big budget productions having this type of pacing, being this patient with a movie.
Right.
What? Did you?
No, I hit a thing with my foot. You thought I just farted?
I thought you just shit in your pants. That sounded like a big wet
Then you
fart.
just moved your foot and that made a fart sound.
I'm sorry, like that surprised me.
Oh.
Like
I was surprised that you got surprised.
I was left speechless because I legitimately thought you just poured a big wet one in your pants.
I would like to put the podcast on hold for
Yeah.
I just shat my pants.
What were we talking about before you shit your pants, Barry?
Just like we got like sequels and reboots of movies that came out 5 years ago and nothing matters anymore. Talking about like the big studio releases, the big like multi-million-dollar movies, because I'm sure there's amazing stuff coming out of the smaller film scene. I just am not invested in that circle. I don't hear about news about it. I focus on games 99% of my time.
Yeah.
That's like where I put all my attention. I don't have the brain space to learn about every indie movie coming out because I'm learning about as many indie games coming out as I can. Dude, and I miss hundreds every day.
Movies sucks. With games, at least you have some breathing room. But with movies, you have some stuff coming out that'll only be in theaters for a weekend.
Well, that's the shitty thing is like, fuck, there's movies that come out.
There's this movie on Netflix, then there's this movie at the ArcLight that's playing early, then there's this movie in regular theaters, there's also a movie on Amazon.
And like
there's so many movies that I have to see.
I think the ArcLight showed the original Blade Runner for like a week or something.
Oh, it was like no. I was thinking of something else. It wasn't the anniversary.
Oh, yeah. I think it was just to hype up this one or something.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted to see Dunkirk, and I wanted to see it on a big screen because I heard that you're supposed to see it on a big screen.
Did you not see Dunkirk?
I have not seen Dunkirk.
That's not even
I never saw Interstellar.
Yeah, but you preface it with...
There's big movies I missed.
I don't keep track of these smaller films like Christopher Nolan's
Is that how you perceive me?
Like Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk.
These small indie flicks. I don't know if you've heard of Christopher Nolan. He's an independent filmmaker.
He's a young up-and-coming filmmaker.
I think he's got a bright future, this Christopher. No, I there's a lot of shit I miss just because I get busy and again, like games are my passion of choice, my hobby / life.
Game is more of a hobby for me.
Yeah.
But I become obsessed with games. Like if there's for instance, Cuphead, I'm obsessed with it. I've beaten it 3 times and I'm trying to get all S rankings. And as I'm doing those S rankings, there's always that third file that I'm going to delete and start a new game and play. It's just like I get obsessed with good things. And I can't remember the last time I was this kind of like about a video game. It was probably Bloodborne or Doom, maybe.
Wow.
Probably Bloodborne. I think it was definitely Bloodborne because I was missing a lot of difficulty in gaming. So.
Yeah,
but that's a discussion for next.
Blade Runner is difficulty in movie watching.
Yeah, it's on the.
And I hate even like I have like this terrible anxiety about sounding pretentious.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like I like having high level conversations about things, but I always worry that like, oh, it's just gonna make me sound like a snob. But it's like with shit like Blade Runner, it's not spoon fed to you, and I think it's a big part of why the original one didn't do well in the box office, and it only became this cult classic years later, in part because of the director's cut and things like that. And this new one, apparently the opening weekend was really shitty. Apparently it didn't do well.
Well, like, I wasn't even... I was going to end up seeing this film eventually, but I wasn't that excited for this because
I thought the trailers were gorgeous, and I knew at least it would be visually worth a watch. But I did not expect it to actually have, like, teeth and have something to say.
It's a good film that actually feels like a film, and like I can't think of a part where it felt like studios were like, we need this, get it.
Like I wasn't sitting there in my head the whole time the way I am with some movies.
Yeah.
Like even when I saw Arrival, as much as I enjoyed that, I think that's a weird case though, because I'd read the short story, and once you know the nature of what kind of story Arrival is, once you know where the story's going, it kind of fucks with your head a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's this whole like big fucking cyclical nightmare. I can't talk about it without getting real spoilers about Arrival, but if you have seen Arrival and then you're basically going into it knowing what happens, it sort of fucks with you a little bit in like a really weird way. But I really enjoyed it. But I was like in my head the entire movie. It was bizarre. But then with Blade Runner, I was just like, I'm just going on an adventure. I'm just having this journey, and shit's happening. It was
beautiful.
It was. Do you want to get into details? Because
let's just get into the details. Let's just start talking about stuff.
We're gonna start talking about specifics.
Because we already talked about how the acting was great, cinematography was great, the soundtrack was great. Cinematography is the best thing about this
Deakins.
movie. Are you coming, dude?
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. It's mixing with the shit.
Oh God, ew! Do you want that in the podcast?
We call that the Deacon Special.
The Deacon Special. Nice. I like that.
No, I just it's
because of the colors because he works well with colors.
It's the cornucopia of experiences. I highly recommend Blade Runner. It's a little bit like
2049 or the original.
Well, both, but especially because this one is out, and I think it's worth seeing on a screen with loudspeakers that will blow out your eardrums.
Yes, definitely loudspeakers.
The soundtrack is just all these like chaotic noises, and I think the soundtrack did a good job of evoking the Vangelis original score from the first movie, but it didn't clearly just like take it and just like plop it in this movie. Like it was suitable to this movie. It didn't feel out of place.
They did a good job at repurposing Blade Runner's universe into like not new era, but
like modern technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Advances.
Like it fit. Like it's the same.
I'm a huge fan when it's done right of the sort of retro futurism that you get in this movie. Like growing up, like in the 90s, there was a lot of sort of 50s retro futurism. Where you have like,
is that with the diners and stuff?
Yeah, like, well, even but in movies and science fiction, like you had even things like Galaxy Quest, like that's just like the first example that comes to mind. Like it toys with this idea. That's probably not a good example, but it's like Star Trek is like this 50s 60s version of the future.
Yeah,
60s I guess. And then like Fallout I guess also has this retro futuristic where it's like 50s, what if the 50s had robots kind of thing. And now we're getting into this world where we're like reimagining the 80s vision of the future, which is all like rain and smoke and brutalist architecture, and I fucking love it.
It was good. Like it didn't feel a lot of the problems that I usually have with future, like depicting the future and stuff, is that it's very boring and very bland and very monochromatic, I guess.
Right.
This movie has a lot of color and has a lot of life in the city that it makes.
Despite being this depressing dystopian future.
Exactly. Like you get an overview of like the city and what's going on in there, and you can definitely tell there's different sections, and you can like the design that went around kind of building this world. I think whoever did that deserves a lot of credit.
Well, it's one of the strengths of the original movie, too, is that it gives you so much detail. It gives you the sense that there is a whole world out there. There's multiple worlds out there.
Yeah.
And you get these little glimpses of what those lives might be, what those places might be, but it's a very small scale story. You follow Deckard, and this one you follow Kay. Like, you have these people you follow through these worlds, but it doesn't feel like a sort of traditional science fantasy story like a Star Wars or something, where the Star Wars universe feels big because of like the expanded universe shit that's come out. Mm-hmm. When you watch A New Hope, you just sort of see Luke's journey, and you get little tastes of it with things like Mos Eisley, But overall, like, you don't get the sense that there's like all of these multiple cultures all clashing. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of aliens. Oh, I guess a lot of aliens live in this city.
Yeah.
But Blade Runner gives you this entire universe. I mean, people would probably disagree with me. I don't know. But I get the sense from watching Blade Runner that they really thought about even the things like in one of the earliest scenes of the first Blade Runner, Deckard sits down and he orders some ramen or something and like speaks Chinese or Japanese. I don't remember what he says. And you get the sense, and they have that in Blade Runner 2049 as well, like all these clashing cultures. You have signs that are in multiple languages, which we have today, but it's taken to an extreme where like everyone is apparently multilingual because we have all of these cultures mashed up in this one place.
Yeah. I noticed that too. Like I like the scenes where it would be someone speaking another language, then they'd like answer, like Kay would answer in English. When I think they were talking, was it Japanese?
I think, and if I'm thinking of the same scene with the DNA stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was
so
Japanese.
That was definitely Japanese.
But then the sign on the door when he walks in there is like Hindi or Sanskrit or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's just the world that you're in. So I don't know, like those kinds of details. Maybe I just feel that way about Blade Runner because it's much more relatable than something like Star Wars, which is meant to be pure escapism.
Mm-hmm. I thought the technology that they made for the film, like the higher end stuff, it doesn't feel goofy like an Iron Man type of thing.
No, because
like, it feels
it's
really
not-
good. Like everything, I'm like,
Everything's clunky and boxy and
or-
feels like a laptop from 2002.
like they'll get this like sphere that's like super important to the plot. I won't say what it is.
I think it's in one of the trailers, but
yeah, and then they put it in this machine, like this.
it looks like a fucking laptop from
I know,
like 10 years ago.
They like put it in this little like concave indent and this like
And there's like mechanical shit that like slides things around,
and it looks beautiful and all seems like it could actually exist in the distant future.
But it's like if the future spun out of the 80s.
Yeah.
Specifically. Let's start getting into spoilery details.
Okay.
So from here on out, we're talking about
super spoilers. As in, we don't care what we're gonna be saying in this next part.
We're just gonna start using examples from the movie.
Yeah.
Go see it if you care about weird science fiction and pretty pictures, because goddamn, got some pretty pictures.
Good film. Now for people who have seen the movie, or honestly, if you're like, I don't care about spoilers, just I don't know. I think experiencing this movie without having what we're about to say in your head will help.
Yeah, I think especially given trailer culture that is so quick to spoil everything.
Like the Shape of Water trailers do.
Right.
That I have to warn people if they're interested in that movie, do not watch the trailers.
That's like Act 1. That's my hope.
That's your hope? You hope that they do. It's like a 1-2 switcheroo.
Right. And like, there's a whole lot of movie after that, but it feels like the whole movie.
I'm scared.
But Blade Runner, like, the trailer is absolutely ruined, and we're talking spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
The trailer is absolutely ruined Harrison Ford being in the movie. And they made it out to be like a much bigger part of the movie.
Well, a lot of people who are expecting Harrison Ford are going to be bored 3/4.
Yeah, they're going to be like, where the fuck is it? Is he in this room? Is he in that room? And then, and the area he's in is so visually striking. As soon as Kay gets there, you're like, okay, where's Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
You're sort of waiting for it.
I remembered that from the trailer specifically.
Yeah, it was like one of the first trailers, I think.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame. I mean...
Well, they did that intentionally because they want to make sure you know that Deckard is back.
Right.
But this isn't a Deckard is back journey. A lot of this movie deals with repercussions of the themes from the first movie as it pertains to Deckard, but Deckard isn't the sole focus of this film.
And I think it was well done. It's not this whole big, like Deckard didn't kill all the replicants, one got away.
Is he actually a replicant or not? Is that answered in this movie?
Which it wasn't.
No.
They poked at it real hard.
They really...
They poked at it so hard it left a bruise.
That's the one thing that took me out of the movie. Whenever they poked at it, I'm like, I can't tell if this is Ridley Scott just kind of prying in with his long fingernails, going, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, replicant.
Yeah,
Deckard.
he's a replicant, right? But Harrison always said in interviews that he thought Deckard was a human, so...
That's what I got from it. I thought the more like powerful thing from Blade Runner that I saw, even though I didn't like it that much, I thought like the thing that struck out wasn't like, is he a replicant or is he human? It's the idea of what if. Right. Because you don't know. That is what Blade Runner was.
It also speaks to this question that's at the heart of both movies, which is that there's this divide between humans and replicants, but does that divide even matter?
Yeah.
You know, when we have AI that's walking around and looks like human and they're basically indistinguishable from real humans, does it matter if they have a fucking soul or not?
Nope.
Like, I mean, I would say no. I mean, it's an easy thing to say, hypothetically, but it's this whole like us versus them mentality, and you see, the skin job this and blah blah blah.
They have memories. that are, I mean, they're implants, they're not real memories, but like, it's the whole question of if it's real to you,
right?
Then how can you discredit that?
It's this very existential question of what is self, what is humanity.
It's probably the most existential Hollywood can get in a mainstream movie,
right? Because it doesn't just like touch on it and walk away. It's the heart of what the entire experience is.
That's what Blade Runner is
this question. And so leaving it up to the audience to sort of figure out is Deckard human or not is, I think, genius, because it isn't important necessarily. It's like...
And that's not important, and it's not really even important in this film. It's just kind of like one of those things that you said they definitely poke and prod at it, but...
To me, it's like the very end of Inception. So okay. I guess spoiler of the end of Inception.
Well, did this movie... this new Blade Runner didn't have one of those endings. Are you talking about?
No, it didn't. But I'm saying like the ending of the original Blade Runner, to me, is kind of like the ending of...
With the top,
Inception.
with the top and the unicorn, those two things.
Because with the top, everyone's like, well, did it fall or didn't? And it's like
I saw it wobble a little.
Right,
it might fall.
It wobbled. It's like it doesn't matter. You know, I don't know if that's if that was up and coming Christopher Nolan, strapping young lad. I don't know if that was his intent or not. But to me, it's like, well, it doesn't matter because Leonardo DiCaprio's character doesn't care.
Yeah,
he's walking away from it. He's saying, I don't care if this is real or not. It's real to me. Mm-hmm. So that's like up for you to decide, is that, you know, important or not?
I think the first time that type of theme was ever broadcasted to me was actually in did you ever hear the show Without a Trace?
I've heard of it.
It's one of the Dick Wolf shows.
Okay.
Like,
I love that name.
Dick Wolf.
Dick Wolf.
You know who Dick Wolf is, right?
Yeah, Law and Order.
Yeah, all that shit. Well, it was a Dick Wolf produced or created show. And it was all about finding the missing persons. Because without a trace, where are they? If we can't find them within 24 hours or 48 hours, they're usually dead. Mm-hmm. Like that type of show.
Got it.
And
there was aliens, right?
No.
Oh.
Unfortunately not. But there was this episode where it was like this white family and a black family. And both of their kids went missing. And it's all about like, is law enforcement giving... more credence to the white family than the black family, and it's like which kid is going to survive. And all of a sudden, at the end, it's like one of the kids was found in the trunk, and the other kid's safe, or some. No, hold on. They said like one kid's in a trunk, one kid's safe, and the last shot of the episode is one of the detectives opening up the trunk, and then you don't see what's in the trunk. You don't see.
But
which
you just see like
survived.
their reaction to it.
Yeah. So like the point is, a child died.
Right.
It's not which race of the child.
You shouldn't be, oh boy, I hope this one died or this one lived.
It's specifically just like, that's the first time, like, as I said, that theme or that cinematically was done to me.
Right.
So seeing
it's trying to have you reflect on your own biases and be like, why'd you think that, buddy? You know?
And so the first time I actually saw Inception, that bothered me until I like realized, I'm like, oh wait, that's not the point. And that's a hard distinction to kind of make, because your natural curiosity will get irritated that you don't know.
Right. Because for literally decades, people were like, oh, is Deckard a replicant or not?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not the point of the movie.
I know.
I mean, it's a very broad movie, and 2049 is as well. Like, there are questions of what's human and what isn't. And
especially with this one. This one includes the biggest thing of all, which it's like, now it's, what is the difference?
Right. And if they're able to procreate, then that just blows everything apart.
Exactly.
Because now, I mean,
they're their own race.
The cheesy line is, "We're more human than the humans," which is like, okay,
we're more human than the humans themselves.
I hate cliches like that. But like that speaks to the idea of like, oh yeah, like, and even Jared Leto's character Wallace, I think his name was something Wally, something like that. Like, he's like, what's like Gromit? That's his goon's name.
That's his goon's name.
Gromit.
Yeah, Gromit.
She was terrifying.
What was her name?
I don't remember. Did they say her name?
Her name was Gromit.
We're gonna call her Gromit.
Let's just call her Gromit. Fuck it. So Wallace
has this fucking god complex, right? And he's like, we're gonna create trillions of these fucking things
because he believes in, as the quote in the movie, the greatest course for a society to succeed is on the backs of others, like on the back of some sort of slave labor, and so the replicants are the new slaves, and so that's his vision.
Right. It's like we are destined to conquer the stars, and we're gonna do it with replicants. And
as our slaves.
I can't make them fast enough because each one is individually dropped out of a Ziploc bag at my feet.
Yep.
and that takes a lot of time to interview them and then murder them. So you know,
Which I liked seeing. I forgot if in the original Blade Runner you saw replicants being made, but there's like little things like that, like them slipping out of the bag and with the
I found
slime.
it kind of comical.
Well,
that scene was fucking.
It was
great.
comical because you can picture a fart noise in it, and also the people behind us laughed.
Did they?
Because she just went.
Oh yeah,
like when she fell out.
There's something kind of silly about it. Like you have this shot where you're like, oh, that's a body. Like you have a moment to realize, like, oh, there's a person in that weird pouch, and then it's just kind of like, and just like farts her on the ground. I'm like, and my first thought was like, now she's got bruised knees. She's like, she was just born, and now she's got bruises.
Oh,
like that's a shitty way to be born.
Oh, I think replicants have strong knees. If Ryan Gosling go through a wall, I'm sure her knees will be
several
fine.
Times.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you would think that. You know, like I just saw Westworld like last month.
Still haven't seen Westworld.
I'm not gonna get into spoilers or anything, but it's like
is it the same themes with the whole like, are they human or are they robots?
They dabble with that whole idea of like, you know, if we're as realistic as humans, then we might as well be humans.
Is there a twist
like,
in
no.
Is there a twist in Westworld?
I'm not gonna say
where
if
the
there's
main
a
character's
twist.
like, wait. Am I a robot? Is my wife a robot?
I'm not going to say if there is or isn't
Anthony
a twist.
Hopkins a robot?
I believe that saying yes, there's a twist is a spoiler.
Okay, so yes, there's a twist.
No, I'm not saying.
Okay, so there is a twist.
Damn it, Ryan. It is interesting, but it gets into a lot of like philosophical things. But they treat their robots almost more like a weird hybrid between mannequins and like surgical things where they're like on operating tables and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But in this, it's like she's just farted out of a bag. And, and you're not really sure how that happened, but it was just, I don't know. I don't know why we're dwelling on that one scene for so long, but that moment was
the scene's
just
intentional why she plops out like that. And
well,
like
yeah, and then
because it's meant to kind of visualize birth.
Well, yeah,
so.
and it was reminiscent of if you've ever seen like an elephant or a deer that's first born and like it can't even walk and it's like all goopy
it's like
and weird,
shivering, goopy. And...
So I loved the rest of that scene, but that one moment I was just like, that's kind of silly to me.
I was only
like, there's got to be a better way to birth those things.
Well. Maybe you should get on that, Barry.
I'm on it. I'm on the case.
Shoot him out of a cannon.
But one of the things
into a giant net.
One of the things I was touching on earlier that like there are a number of little things that felt like callbacks to the original movie.
Okay, I'm interested in this because I don't think I was taken out of the movie by that, but I want to see what you're talking about.
Again, they didn't even really take me out of the movie. So one of them was in the original movie. There's a scene where Deckard is basically looking at a photograph. And he's being like, okay, zoom in, turn in, go closer, turn left. And it basically lets him like turn a corner by looking through reflections and shit. And it's like fucking crazy shit. And like, it's a kind of a bonkers scene, but it's almost as absurd as like CSI, like, oh, enhance, like 1,000 times till you're looking at a hair.
It's one of those scenes, but done better than the CSI types go. Enhance to the quadricep triangle theorem.
But in 2049, you have the scene where the doctor dude is looking at the skeleton remains, and you have. I don't remember who was saying it, but they were like, oh, like go like enhance, like quarter circle left, whatever. And it was like the same like filters being like slid in front of each other. Like it felt very much like this is the same technology that Deckard used.
Yeah.
Which isn't like, I remember the first one, but it felt like a deliberate callback, which is not a bad thing.
It was definitely a more enhanced version.
I thought that was well done because that was giving you a point of connection to be like, here's the technology from the first movie, and there's like an analog in this movie.
Yeah. Because from the first movie, as I said, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what I can, but it seemed a lot more low tech with Deckard's in the original Blade Runner. Was it as high tech as this?
There was a lot of high tech stuff.
I know it was high tech, but it seemed in this one it was more clean. It was
the only
because it was in an established professional environment.
Right,
in relations
and it's
to like his apartment or wherever he was.
And it's like 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there were holograms in the first one. There were definitely giant screens. That was one of the famous shots in the first one, is the giant geisha billboard video thing.
I don't remember giant people being in there.
Well, those are like holograms, right?
Yeah.
But they had giant video billboards of people. So that is just like, oh, what's a more advanced version of that? Holograms of that. So that made sense to me. The only thing that really didn't fit in to me were Wallace's little floating drone buddies, the little very smooth pebble things.
Okay, that seemed odd, but
compared to the rest of the technology in that movie, which felt very 80s retrofuturism, that was just like, here's some sci-fi shit we made up.
it's like
how are they flying? Like, even the police drones.
I had the same problem with that technology, but for some reason I looked past it because the sound that they make is so soothing to me.
Oh, the sounds in this fucking movie. Yeah,
it's like little popping, like little clicking, but like they're not sharp clicks. They're very they're very fresh, and they have weight.
I was able to kind of gloss over them because I just assumed, okay, this has got to be one of the richest men on the planet.
Yeah,
and presumably he has some crazy fucking technology no one else has. But it's like you have those police drones, the one that comes out of the roof of his car, and that has no obvious flying mechanism, but it just sort of seems like this big bulky thing. So you're like, it's got some jets in it. I'm sure it's fine.
It also seems like something that would exist in the future, where like. I guess police or law enforcement would eventually have a drone that is attached to their car that has a serial number that's theirs. So like,
it's a piece of equipment.
When they're on a scene, like at this strange place, they can automatically send the drone up, and the drone will go around the circumference of the area. And I'm like, that's smart. That's cool. I like seeing shit like that.
Yeah, I can create evidence by like videoing and photographing and stuff. Like,
the way he communicated, it wasn't like pressing on some giant futuristic hologram. Well, that was
also
watch.
One of the things from the original Blade Runner was they would interact with technology by speaking to it.
Yeah,
which at the time was crazy sci-fi nonsense, and now we all have that in our phones. So you know, it's little shit like that where you're like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
But like all the monitors look like they came out of the 80s. They're all like one color monitors, you know.
But I am glad that they didn't go the route of giving, because I can see this movie if Hollywood execs got a hold of it. I can literally I can picture.
It would have voiceover.
I can picture one going, that little drone that he has, I think we can make that a comic relief character for after the big fight. Maybe have it like hit the tree and like go. Like,
I actually had that thought
I could see them making that an R2-D2 type character if the movie went off on some just horrible way.
Like it takes out all the scavenger dudes and then he just nods and it's like and flies away.
Exactly.
I kind of had that thought a little bit with his like robot hologram girlfriend, that it seems like they introduced the technology that she's restricted to his apartment, and then he's like, I have this little device and now you can come with me anywhere. And I feel like that only existed to have, and this isn't a complaint necessarily, but it feels like it was just a vehicle to give him someone to talk exposition with while they're traveling places.
I see that, but she was also like a super important part to his character.
She was.
Like,
and it felt justified. I think they did a really good job of it because he didn't have a partner, and that would have felt very hokey as well, because that's not the film noir way.
Most of everything he's doing with her is him trying to have a real type of relationship with something, because I think it was offhandedly said by someone else, but I guess it's true. He doesn't like real women,
right?
Like human women. He likes, I guess, he keeps to himself.
Holograms. Yeah,
exactly. So she was more of a doorway into like his character than any other, because nothing.
But
really...
it was my point of like why I think it was very clever is it was a external thing that had rules. Like it was this physical thing that could break. And they set that up, very Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're sure about this? Like, well, I know what's going to happen here.
Oh, like right when they said that, I was like, oh, well, guess what's happening.
Yeah, which is like, that kind of stuff is a bummer, but there also were a lot of...
I even predicted whose boot was going to come down on it, too.
Yep, Gromit.
Yep, good old Gromit. Whenever Gromit pissed me off a lot, because every time Gromit showed up, I'm like, oh, you son of a
What are you going to do now?
I know, because she's just relentless.
Yeah, she was terrifying.
Just like the replicants in the original Blade Runner, they were just... When they do something violent, it's not like this cynical, like lust.
No,
type
it's like
of thing.
precision. It's like, and you're dead.
That's what's scary about it. It's just fuck. It's just brute force precision.
And you get the sense that they're way stronger than they look.
Yeah.
While also seeming so. I mean, especially when she's first introduced and she's like pouring herself some tea and having a conversation with someone. She's like, oh, I need to take care of some business, whatever. Yep. And you just get that sense of like corporate hostility when he's in the archives. And that was what I was talking about earlier with like kind of exposition dump, was when Kay is walking through the old archives with the bald dude. And he's like, yeah, there was a blackout and we lost all kinds of data and do exposition. Like that stuff that was broken down in the animated short. That's the story of the blackout.
Okay.
Which then caused all of this.
Yeah, it was odd for the bald guy to be like, we lost all of our photos. In fact, everybody lost everything.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And
okay.
I mean, they played it up for a joke, which there were a couple moments of levity, which I really enjoyed.
There was one moment of levity that I thought didn't fit with the tone. It felt like it should have been a part of a Marvel movie.
I wonder if I'm thinking of the same scene, but go.
Is it the part where she uses her head to scan, like, to get the security, and then she just drops her head on the table, but her head, like, bounces off in some way?
It was a very comical...
Yeah,
that was not
plunk.
what I was thinking.
That was played for laughs, but
Right.
it felt odd in that specific scene, especially right after what just happened. But maybe that's the
played for
point.
laughs.
To be like,
I think the point was it was showing how heartless she is, right?
well, I get that, but
Right.
it was
But it could
was
have
the way
been-
her head clunked on the
Yes.
tape. It was done to
Because
be
it could
funny.
have, she could have just dropped her back on the floor, or her head could have hit the desk and then slid off. But it was like this, like,
Or you could have
bounce.
heard like a crunch, like a snap sound, like like if
they
she
definitely didn't shy away from
Oh no!
disgusting
like,
shit. in
Whenever
this movie.
something brutal happened, they made sure to
You felt it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Some of that
getting
sound
punched in
direction.
the back of the head by a replicant.
Oh, that poor guy.
Sure does a lot. Like
He didn't deserve that.
It wasn't what he looked like. It's the sounds he was making to
God.
me. Like just, I guess, drowning in his own blood.
Yeah, I guess.
Just death noises.
Some terrifying shit in that.
Yeah.
No, the scene that felt like it didn't really fit. It did, but it kind of
Okay.
bothered me a little bit. Was after Kay and Deckard fight in the casino,
They're like,
and then it's like, "Do you want a drink?" Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was just kind of like, that just didn't seem into their characters.
Harrison Ford's always got to have one of those like scenes.
I did like the mountain of bottles in the casino, though.
Yeah.
I was like, he's been here a while.
What's it taste like? Ask him. Haha.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
I like
see what you did there. Haha.
asking if the dog is real. There are a lot of little world building shit just everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
But one of the things that you mentioned earlier, the like every frame a painting kind of idea towards watching a movie, and there were 100% individual shots in this movie where I was like, I want this on my wall, or like, this could be in a fucking textbook about movies. Of
yeah.
Here's like some juxtaposition shit where you're like, holy shit, this is telling me a world of information in one shot.
Like one of the first opening shots of the film when Dave
Bautista.
Yeah, when his character comes into the house and you see the stove and you see him walking in place of the stove and the camera's coming in and then you see the just pitch black silhouette of Ryan Gosling's character in the chair. I thought that was just a beautiful image. And getting
Some Roger Deakins shit.
Getting stuff like that right off the bat, it's like you can't get a shot like that unless you plan and you make sure that it's right. You don't just like, okay, get the cinematographer on here. Okay, here's a room. Just do a straight shot.
Make sure we see him.
Yeah, exactly. Just like,
But it also works for the kind of movie it is, because when that happened, it was very quiet. All you really hear is the bubbling of the boiling pot.
yeah.
And I was just expecting, okay, he's gonna walk into the room, and then we didn't know his name, but Kay is gonna like jump in and tackle him,
Like punch
you're
him or
waiting for like this
something.
like burst of action, and it doesn't happen. I mean,
It's kind of like the opening to Blade Runner where it's like a slow investigation scene.
Yeah, the Voight Kampf test.
Yeah.
Which I think they very. That was another thing when they showed the like audio archive of, I guess, Deckard interviewing the lady, and I was just like, this feels a little bit heavy-handed, because it feels way too convenient that Deckard is the only old Blade Runner that he ever hears about. But I guess if they used the Voight Kampf test from the beginning of the first Blade Runner, that would have been too much of just like, there's a turtle on its back. Or you flip it over. Why did you do that, Leon? And like, that would have been like, okay, it's Blade Runner. And they don't do Voight Kampf tests anymore, I guess, because they're all obedient, and they have different interrogation for police officers.
Yep.
Which was terrifying. Just the fucking sound. They hit you with so many walls of noise, and it's just so stressful. But oh, I fucking loved it though.
Intentionally as well. Like that's what as I said, I keep saying it. That's what I loved about this film. But that's seriously what I loved
who did
about
the soundtrack. I don't know if I can look it up right now, but
it was just the mass of everything coming together to make a solid package.
But there was shit like when near the end of the movie when they wash up on the shore, and I don't know, because they established earlier, I think in another awesome, there are a lot of really cool just city shots of like things flying around and stuff, and it wasn't fucking Coruscant on Star Wars, where you have like a billion ships flying around nonstop.
Yeah.
Like even the original Blade Runner, I still remember a good number of ships in the sky, but this one's very Spartan.
This one seems to be like
when there's a ship in the sky, that's what you're looking at. That's the only thing.
When I had this thought when I watched the movie, when it was only his kind of like law enforcement vehicle in the sky, I'm like, because there's no way in the future we're gonna have flying cars, because that's just too much of a health risk. But there is a future.
If they're self-driving,
I still couldn't see that because that's like their buildings up. I mean, that's
I think it's just not practical for a lot of the reasons we think it is.
But I could see in the future flying like police cars.
I mean, we have police helicopters.
Yeah,
so.
but like think of like just something that can get around easier, that gives them more control. Like that was. I like
it
that.
Fits in with the very dystopian, authoritative.
Yeah.
Like when you see the LAPD building, it looks like something out of Dredd, and you're just like, Jesus Christ.
That looks like straight out of the new Dredd.
Yeah.
The big.
I'm trying to remember I'm sure that same building was in the original Blade Runner. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But so there's a shot
because there's always the big tower.
Right. But there's that shot in the movie where they're flying over this giant wall, and you realize, oh, that's the ocean on the other side.
Okay.
And you have just tons and tons of city and population just slamming right up against this wall, and then you have the ocean. And when you think about the geography of LA, you're like, wow, they turned every square inch of LA into city.
Which is
like, but like that wall with the ocean sells it in a way more to me than just seeing downtown be this fucking monstrosity of buildings. It's like, no, they built
like
to
the slums
the wall.
in Brazil.
They built as far as they could.
Yeah.
And then built a wall to be like, you can't even see the ocean. And there's that one girl's like, I've never seen a tree before. Like, that's the kind of shit that sells you this world that they're in. But you see the ocean and you're like, okay, well, like that's where the ocean is. And that sort of tells you a bit about the world. But then later they crash upon the shore and they get out and stuff. And you're like, there's no beach. There's no sand. It's like fucking concrete that the water's crashing into. That fucking blew me away. I was just like, I don't know if you had that moment or not when they're like crawling out on the
no, because like at first I thought it was a beach set, and then as you said, looking at it, you're realizing just
like
how
even the beach is like concrete and shit.
How lifeless the humanity has become in this world.
Right,
like it's just all manufactured. Everything is fake
in a way. Everything is man made. Which you know the replicants are man made. So it was things like that, and just the attention to detail.
Yeah.
Just continually blowing away. There was another thing that kind of cracked me up a bit, which was the advertisements for companies that don't exist anymore.
Oh, yeah?
Did you notice that?
No. What are they
there was a giant ad for Atari.
I saw that.
There was also a building with a giant Pan Am logo on it.
I didn't see that. I knew
there were a couple other ones.
I definitely saw Atari because
Atari was in the original one too. There was giant Atari ads.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was just like, like I kind of wagged my finger at the screen a little bit. Trying to remember what else.
There's one scene that I do want to gush about.
Please.
Well, actually, before I do that, I just want to see if you noticed something that I noticed just as an off the bat thing. In that one beautiful shot of the dog walking through, was that dog CG? Was that a real dog?
I think it was a real dog.
Really, you know what shot I'm talking about, where like it's after
he's knocked out.
They've taken Deckard,
yes,
and like after they've pretty much gotten everything. It's like right before I think they might take the tracker out of his pocket because it's like, oh, we tracked you, type
right?
Of thing.
But it's
the dog's walking through this orange dust. It's a beautiful shot,
and then it sort of follows up, and then you see like the ships flying away from the dog. Yeah, that shot was fucking.
Was that dog CG? I want to say that I can't tell if it was a real dog.
See,
it's not a big thing. It's just something I'm just wondering if you noticed. I was confused
because when they first showed the dog, I was like, is that even a dog or is that like a doll just sitting there? Because it was like bone still when they first showed the dog and it's like pure silhouette. No, do you remember?
No,
I know you're talking about a different scene.
No. I know what scene you're talking about because I was about to say during that scene, I had a studio exec perched on my shoulder going, just wait for the silence. And then it goes, roar, and scares him. And then he turns around, and then Harrison Ford's there.
But
he has a gun pointed at him.
This movie didn't do that.
No, it didn't.
There were startling moments, like gunshots and stuff like that, but like You know, we talked about it a little bit in the
Not really even that startling too.
No,
it was just kind of like, okay, the action's starting now. Let's.
But it's like it's startling because it's a startling event. It's not artificially just like here's silence.
Yeah,
and then bah, we get you.
It's like gunshots are loud, so of course it's going to be just. I mean,
just the fucking fight in the casino.
No, that's what I was gonna gush over.
Oh God,
that casino fight is definitely one of my top three one of my top three scenes in the whole film because the sound design, the shots, the things that are actually going on.
Yep.
Because we had the holograms of like Elvis and like Vegas,
right.
Like old Vegas shows are going on, but the audio is also semi blown out and also
it's
like
also really unsettling to see like all these can dancers and it's silent.
Yeah, it's like dead silent. But every once in a while, like 10 seconds will go by. There's no sound. All of a sudden, randomly for 2 seconds, it'll be like. Right. It'll just be Elvis just sounding like just garbled and just everything.
And he's teleporting around the room.
And sometimes it'll sound clean.
Well, and then you had Kay jumping out and grabbing Deckard, jumping out from like behind a hologram.
Yeah.
So as an audience member, you're also confused because you're seeing like, oh, there's a person. Oh no, that's a real person, and like that also gets him off guard.
Oh. By the way, talking about hologram within a hologram or like thing within a thing. I just want. I'm just
that scene.
No, I was just gonna say before they like once they first
you're talking about the prostitute and the hologram
when the prostitute first like kind of synced up with the hologram, I'm like, is this going to be the first movie in American history to have two naked ladies take up the same amount of screen? And they did it. They did it. That was such like that's a good scene. Like that a lot of scenes like I could see a rated R playing it up for the whole like, okay, let me take my clothes off and let's
because
bang.
It was a really emotional scene
fuck.
And it had a lot of context. The visuals of her as a hologram were so fucking simple.
And the sound, everything to do with it, the sound design too with the holograms, like when it was fucking up, was really well done too.
But everything with the girlfriend whose name I don't remember. Whatever, the hologram girl.
Paid for by
right. And I loved like the little chime that would play and like the
how you always
the design of like her menus and stuff. Like I was a fan of all that.
Like
shit.
whenever you heard the sound, it definitely you knew that was her. It's kind of like hearing Windows or Mac startup.
Yep.
It's that
clearly
exact
born
thing.
From that idea of like it's technology and it has these cues with it. But just the fact that you would get certain shots depending on the lighting a lot of the time that made it look like she was physically there. And then you would see like, oh no, like in the corner of her ear, you can see the light is like piercing through it.
Have you not seen her?
No, I've not seen her.
Okay, never mind.
I need to see her.
Because there's a scene plays kind of like the same as it did in her.
Okay.
It has the same
with like hologram
meaning. Stuff? Yeah, except it's the phone and
I know the like premise of her.
Yeah, so like this isn't a spoiler, of course, but in her there's a scene where they get this real girl to have sex with him, but it's going to be the phone's voice. So it's like
he's pretending to have sex with her.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the same thing in terms of getting close to something that's not real by using something that's real and tangible.
Right.
But you also don't want. Right. Which is I love. It's such a good.
There's a lot of layers to it, but just visually, I was just stunned watching that scene.
When when their faces melted, like just
right.
How did? But also when like one of them started. Oh, sorry. I have to give the film a lot of credit for this. Whenever they were touching the holograms or whatever, they made sure, or the director, I think, definitely made sure that their hands were always just hovering over the person.
Yeah.
Like it was never like, I'm holding her, but she's a hologram, but I'm holding her.
It was so fucking well done. But I wonder how many of those shots they actually shot with both of them and how many were shot separately. Because some of them were clearly, like when she walks through him, it's like, obviously that was a separate take with VFX. But there were some shots where it looked like they were just there together, and then
she's just hovering.
They're just making parts of her have the light bleed through.
Yeah.
And I love the scene when she went on the rooftop in the rain, and
it was sinking to the rain.
It's like, yeah, you're watching like the fucking computer running her, whatever, like generating the raindrops on her. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I love this movie.
There's so much attention to detail. Like they care about the technology, the people, and the world. Because
at first I thought it was just raining on her. I was like, wait, is she physical now? And like they just keep, it's like they give you enough time to figure it out. They're just looking at her hand, and it's like, no, you're like watching it being drawn.
Yeah.
Just, oh, fuck. That shit blew my mind. Good. But specifically those shots where like her hands are running through his hair, and then you see like her ghost hands like also grabbing. I was like, I've never seen this before. It's like I love having that feeling of, and the same thing happened with the casino fight. I have never seen these visuals that I'm seeing right now, and I never imagined them. It's easy to imagine what a space fight will look like. We've seen a billion of them. There's been science fiction written about them, but I don't know. Maybe I need to go out more. But
I'm happy there wasn't a space fight in this.
I mean,
there was a sky fight.
Yeah, it was a sky fight.
It was
pretty understated. It was just, pal, you're down.
Yeah, it's not like a big thing. Right. Like this didn't.
Where were they going?
This didn't go the direction
when they're driving.
When they're better, more better. Were they not going to Wallace? Was Grummet not going back to Wallace?
She said we're going home.
Wait a second. Home.
And they were flying towards some lit up structure out in the ocean. Which, my assumption was that they're going off world. That was my assumption because he made that threat. He was like, off world. Yeah, I'll make you talk.
Oh yeah.
So I'm assuming that's some sort of like platform to launch into space. But the fact that she said we're going home was weird to me.
Where was she born? She was born in Wallace's complex, I'm guessing.
Yeah, she was a
like
replicant.
The paper bag woman.
Plastic
bag woman. Sorry.
Paper or plastic. Maybe you have the option when you buy replicants.
Which replicant do you want? Paper or plastic?
Yeah, well, that one's 10 cents. So.
But yeah, I don't know where they were going.
I'm assuming off-world.
That could have been also something that you and I just...
Maybe they should have had voiceover where we zoom in on Deckard and he's like, so they're taking me off-world, huh? Let's see how that ends up for them.
Yeah, where it's like, so the replicant woman thought that me as a human, not a replicant, needed to go. That would be Harrison Ford.
And they slowly looks
lines.
at the camera. By the way, I'm not a replicant.
Fuck you, Ridley. Did Harrison and Ridley get into like a fight?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you think they? I wonder if there was like some sort of like.
Apparently, Harrison Ford punched Ryan Gosling during the production of this movie.
Not on purpose.
Well, they were fighting in the movie, and then he connected.
Yeah, I bet you I could tell which point in the movie that was.
It was probably
the point where he was consistently punching him over and over and over again.
Yeah, probably that part. I'm trying to remember what else I wanted to talk about. I don't know. It's the kind of movie where like while I'm watching it, I'm just very much engrossed in the movie, and then afterwards I'm just like, I just want to talk about it.
But it took
every
a lot
part
to
of
watch. Like I'm not sure. Like I can't go right back to the theater and watch.
No, that's not a movie I'm in a rush to watch again.
Yeah,
because it again, it had that very deliberate pacing. We talked briefly to Ross before we saw it.
Should we out him?
I mean, we can cut it if he's like, don't fucking tell people. But he said he fucking hated it.
Or let's redo that. Ross
was not a fan.
He was not a fan of the movie.
He said he thought it was too slow and that it could have been cut like an hour shorter.
But he said he also thought that was because of his ADD.
Right. And also he said he didn't want to say that publicly because he doesn't want to be murdered on the internet.
Awesome.
So guys, just be cool. Just be cool, guys. It's just his opinion, okay? But definitely if you're not, I mean, if you look at the branding, if you watch the trailer, you're like, oh, it's this weird kind of artsy sci-fi movie. If you're not experienced with like film noir, like if you've never actually watched any old detective movies, which this is clearly paying homage to the same way the original Blade Runner did, you're going to be fucking bored. You're going to be like staring at people walk in for half an hour and be like, holy shit, this doesn't need to be in the movie. And I that's a totally valid opinion, but I still
think there was a lot of information told within those shots to where as I said it was kind of like the opposite of what Edgar Wright does, how he does a bunch of quick cuts in different places to tell the general idea, just like I'm in Hot Fuzz, instead of just showing him go on a train and do this like long montage, it was just a mixture of 4 different shots of train with the plan outside, taxi.
Just in a span of 10 seconds, we get the information we need in a humorous way, and now we're on our way.
And in this one, they'll have one shot, and that tells you the information of the scene, and then the scene plays out, and like that type of thing. That's how it felt for me. I think the only
sequence that I felt like it went on for too long was when he was at the boiler room, going back to where the horse
with the horse, when he's like walking slowly,
because that was probably like 5 minutes of him walking down there and grabbing the thing and unwrapping it. And I get it thematically why it's like that's a big fucking moment for him. It did feel a little bit long.
Yeah,
I think it could have been a little bit faster.
For me, I can't remember which Wallace scene it was because he only has 3 scenes, but one of the Wallace scenes felt just a little bit long.
Was it the one where he's talking to Deckard?
I can't
Because
remember.
they spent a long time talking without really saying much until it started to kind of...
There was like a lot of the dialogue from Wallace where I'm like, okay, I understand who your character is, but you just keep talking.
Especially because Deckard didn't say anything, and he just sort of
Yeah.
kept talking at Deckard, saying all this highfalutin philosophical stuff.
It was like one of those big villain rants where there isn't necessarily a big bad villain type of thing.
Well, because he's not like, well, you've uncovered my plot. It's like, no, I want to make 1 billion robot babies.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
Who's
You're just
gonna
like,
give me these
okay, I
robot
assumed
babies?
as much because you said that earlier. Just, I guess Harrison didn't hear that.
Why does he want so many babies?
He just wants robot babies. Because they obey him, and he'll be a god to the stars. He can't control humans. He can control robots.
Do you think his little pebbles give him the ability to kind of see more due to, like, I don't know, like, how did that help him?
That my idea, which again, mine was
kind of like,
I was expecting it to cut to like his robot vision.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm kind of glad it didn't, because that's always a little bit hokey. My assumption is that those little robots have some sort of like projection scan technology to create 3D images, and that he gets that in his brain somehow. I don't know. It wasn't clearly explained.
The clicking pebbles.
I'm more
the clicking
confused
fountain
when they first introduced that with when the replicant is born, and Gromit opens up the little like case, and there's a bunch of different little stones in it.
Yeah.
And she selects one and puts it up on his thing.
Like,
are those different types of vision? Maybe
is he a boss? And in the boss fight, you're gonna have to go against all 9 of his chips.
Oh my god, all 9 of his forms.
I got through the 3rd chip, but that 4th chip gave me a problem.
Once he can see me through walls, man, it gets tough. I was a little bit confused when so Kay gets beaten up by Gromit.
Kay gets the shit kicked out of him throughout the whole movie.
He really does. And I like that they had that one scene where he sort of glues his wound back together.
I love that. I thought the effects on that scene were done really well.
I'm assuming it's CG, but it looked real.
Yeah.
Specifically after they're in Vegas and they take away Deckard. And then like the weird underground resistance people come and find him, and then he wakes up next to the campfire.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit jarring to me. In hindsight, I guess it's fine, but they're like at this campfire. I'm like, okay, so now he's like outside the city, he's sort of outside the system.
It gave me this odd Hunger Games feel.
A little bit.
Where it was like, we're the dystopian lower class, and and I get,
but
like,
it
part of that's
like,
the point of Blade Runner, but it did feel like a different movie.
It felt like they were outcasts that were outside the system, outside society, just existing on their own, trying to like create this resistance or whatever. And then the next time we cut to him, he's in this underground watery bunker, and there's like 100 of them that all come out. I'm like, where are we?
I guess.
And then I guess we were in LA the whole time. It felt a little bit disjointed, but I'm glad they hung out by that fire, because that transition from the little sparks coming off the fire to flying through the city, I was like, oh my god, this is just fucking gorgeous. That transition I just blew my deacons everywhere.
You're talking about the one with the embers, and then it goes,
and then it goes into the city.
Well, just the shot of just the embers in general. Even
it was just
that's funny. Even the transition shots are beautiful,
right?
Which is great.
That was like the only real transition like that I can think of.
Yeah.
And if there were more like that, it would have probably become distracting. But just that one time, like, you're staring up at all these little embers flying up into space, and it's just like a very hypnotizing sort of scene. And then you're like, oh, we're flying we're in the city. Okay, now we're here now. Like, shit like that made me go, okay, I love this movie. It's the kind of shit that I knew, like, even if the plot was garbage, which it isn't, and it almost became garbage. It got real close to becoming garbage. Plot? Yeah.
Well, it was
scared for a moment.
was heading into garbage territory for me when they were introducing that the
resistance leader.
The resistance leader.
That shit
with the one eye, and it's like, are you gonna tell me to look at my left eye? Oh, I don't have an eye. I'm this leader that speaks to you, and I'm forcing out this choice for you.
Right.
For some reason,
it's
at
bigger
the last
than
second,
you, and then, oh, by the way, you're
dying for a cause.
You're not the child.
Is just as important doesn't mean you actually die.
The resistance stuff felt a little bit strange, and
it felt very rushed. Would be my.
I guess so, because then it never has any payoff. Which I guess presumably if they make a Blade Runner 2050,
because in the beginning you do see the woman, or maybe like a third of the way through the movie. You see the woman, and she's like, "Hey, find what you can about him." So they set it up.
And I was just like, "Who's that lady?"
Yeah, there's this underground, or there's this underground group of replicants that want information.
And I was also a little bit confused because the prostitute he sleeps with puts the tracker in his jacket, and then the LAPD finds him, and I'm like, were they using the same tracker? How did they find him? I just assumed that
he was using the same car though. When you think they could track their own cars, he still had the drone in it and everything, didn't they? Or was that his drone, or was that one of their drones surveying?
No, I think
everything?
that was the LAPD drone. Because and then his like commanding officer, I just think she's Claire Underwood. I don't remember.
No, that's how she went on the computer and found out where he was.
Well, so Robin Wright, that's the actor's name. I don't remember what her character's name was. She was like, okay, well, you have, I can get you out of the building alive. Which I was like, does she realize what is happening, or is she?
Yeah, that's what it threw me for a loop, because she acted the exact way I thought she would have acted if he told her something else.
Right.
Like, but because he specifically, I forgot, we can spoil.
Yeah.
But because he specifically told her what he did, which is like, I took care of it.
I did what you asked me to do.
And then she goes, I'll get you out of here alive. I'm like, wait, okay, how did that signify that line? How did they get there?
It felt a little bit jumbled up there, but then she was like, okay, I can get you out of the building alive, and then you have 48 hours.
Yeah.
Why was she able to track him on his computer, on her computer? If she knew that he was in danger and needed to get out of the city, she would have been like, all right, we need to get, or at least like, I'll get you out of the building and then I'm gonna like wipe my shit.
Yeah.
Instead of, and I thought she was like calling security with the little button, but that button is just to turn off her monitors.
Yeah.
That's like,
I thought it was like an emergency button.
It's like there's I think there's like a Chrome extension that makes it look like you're on a spreadsheet if you like hit a button.
I think if there's one button you add under your desk, it's not the turn off all monitors button, it's the emergency button. And then you can turn in the emergency button. If you hold it, then it turns off the screen.
If its entire function is to, without alerting anyone in the room, hey, I just turned off all my screens and this is how you do it, it failed its only job because she sat down and went, here's the screens turned on.
Yep.
So what was the point of that?
And like when they turned off, she like did a little like eye glance. There's a lot of like direction in terms of where they made characters look and how they reacted to certain things minimalistically and stuff that I liked.
But it was just, I kept waiting for like guards to bust in the room or something, and then nope, that's just the button that turns off the monitors, and also no data's deleted. She can just go right in there.
I thought it should have been.
It felt a little unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, it would have been better if, like, I think we would have felt differently about it if, like, we got the feeling the desk was the computer type of thing. Like she was just turning off the desk type of thing. But this looks specifically like this was a special button under, like, because whenever you see someone press a button, you think of a bank robbery or a gas station or like an evil villain that's like
the silent alarm.
Like the evil villain that's sitting there is like, I hope that this isn't a trap door.
Right.
So that was it's probably one of the least effective evil person buttons that ever exists.
Definitely.
It just
movie
turns
goes
off
down
monitors.
in history for anything. It's going to be a Watch Mojo list for the most ineffective security measures in movies.
The worst button presses in movie history.
I think that's all I got. I don't know.
Trying to think, like I'm pretty much wearing myself out on the subject, just because, like, I mean, I'm sure I'd have more to say, but I need to also rest on it too. Because we're spitting out everything literally like we started this not even an hour after we saw it.
Yeah.
So
I'm just sort of gabbing about like, I love this scene and then also this scene. But I think it's also I hope this movie does well because
specifically for the director
and
the cinematographer, and to show that, hey, we need people like
that there's an audience for sci-fi big budget movies that aren't purely explosions, because I love big sci-fi explosion movies.
They're great. But that's why Marvel's here. And have you seen the recent Justice League trailer?
I have. Not a fan.
What is their deal?
I don't know.
How can they keep fucking up?
And
they're making the same mistake every time.
Right.
They're like, this time it'll work. It's like how I said I played Rabbids. I don't learn my lesson. They're not learning their lesson.
Right.
But
yeah, just tonally it's all over the place. It looks super intense and serious, and then it's like, oh, I just push people and run away, and it's like, this does not fit with the theme of anything in this movie. Visually, musically, nothing. It's just
someone's gonna fast forward to this part and think we're talking about Blade Runner, and they're gonna be like, whoa, I didn't. Yeah. It's bad. Whoa.
No.
Wow.
It's there's a lot of, and I've never read any Philip K. Dick books, but I've seen a lot of movies based off of Philip K. Dick books.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of science fiction. I've read a lot of science fiction short stories, especially. And I love when they tackle these really weird hypothetical situations to sort of act as a mirror, as a Black Mirror, if you will. Have you seen Black Mirror?
Yeah.
But it's like it's this idea.
Well, that's
of
what
like,
science fiction is, right? Is like
it doesn't have to be.
Well, I know that, but
a lot of the best science fiction tends to be like, we're gonna take a modern day issue and propel it into the future, and then use all these abstractions with science fiction and metaphor to sort of separate it from us. But it's, now we can sort of reflect that back on ourselves, or we think about, when we get there, what kind of society do we want to be? There's a lot of questions, and I think Blade Runner 2049 does a good job of planting seeds for a lot of conversations. It's not purely, what if robots looked like people? You also have like
if
conversations
you can have sex
about
with a human and you can have sex with a robot, then why would a robot want to have sex with a hologram using a real woman?
I mean, that's a good point.
Just saying.
But like the scene with the dream lady, where they're talking about like why do replicants need dreams, and it's like, oh, well, we can do something nice for them, and like kind of like just touching on these like strange little philosophical strands. And
you picked up on that though when she said that line. My ears perked up right away. I'm like,
which line?
When she's like talking about how her childhood, she was kind of like sheltered or whatever.
It went right over my head.
And so like
I was very unobservant during that scene.
I didn't know.
And then she's crying, and I'm like, why is she crying?
Like, I didn't know. It makes sense now.
Right.
Like when I heard that, my ears perked up, and I was like, that scene. I felt like when I watched that scene, I didn't get something. But then later it's explained, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
because she acted oddly, and sometimes
she did act oddly.
Well, sometimes also like Gromit cried, and I'd be like,
right,
okay, I thought Gromit was.
There were
was
a lot
a
of
tough girl.
Little side characters and side moments where you're just kind of like, huh.
Mm-hmm.
Like I personally wanted more with the what did he call himself? The shady. He called himself like Doctor something. And he was the one that scanned the statue and was like, "Oh, like I can get you a horse or like a goat. Like, what do you want?" I was like, "I want to see the movie with this guy."
The guy in Captain Phillips.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah, he's the I am the captain now guy. He is.
Is he?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Oh,
Look at me. Look at me.
I'm the captain now.
I'm the captain now.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay. That's dummy. All right.
Yeah. I can do that.
Sure thing.
Yep. Here's the keys.
Hey, I'm saving the whole crew. Woo!
Captain Phillips, the movie.
Also, did Miss Higher Up want to boink our robot protagonist?
Miss Higher Up. Oh, Robin.
Did Robin Wright want to boink?
I don't think so. Well, there was that one scene where she kind of got drunk and was like, "Whoa, what's gonna happen?" But
I know that's what I was saying.
I just think she was drunk.
No, I know that, but like that's because it's the whole an uptight professional businesswoman that doesn't have time for a relationship. So
that's very sexist, Ryan.
No, that's what the movie had. That's what she was. She was that uptight businesswoman with the slick back hair that obviously doesn't have time for relationships or a sex life. So she's like, But
also she knows he's a replicant.
But she also said that like. I think she's really comfortable around him, of course, because she says so. She says, "I almost forget with you." She makes that a distinct thing. So it's like,
and that plants a seed of him thinking, "Oh, I'm special."
Yeah. That was probably one of the best fake outs I've seen.
Red herrings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's when I was talking about it. It was like it was about to nosedive into cliche territory.
I'm glad it wasn't the chosen one type of story.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah, because like when that was coming along, and like she's like, "Did you think that was you?" I'm like, because the twist was impactful for him emotionally when he found out.
Yeah.
But then when you realize
awesome
he's just a vessel to help out with this thing, the big overarching cause, then it's like, oh, okay, that's not the point.
And again,
remember the point isn't is he or is he not.
I feel like it's a subtle enough moment that to me, it just speaks to like Denis Villeneuve as a director, that when she's talking about like, this and that, and like his daughter, there's not some like his daughter slow zoom in, just like what,
What did you just
It's like,
say?
it gives you the moment as the audience to like, your ears perk up like, wait, did she just say daughter? And then he's like, did you say daughter? It's like, yeah, did she just say daughter? Like, that's really satisfying to me as a film goer, because it's almost like rewarding you for paying attention.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you've been following the plot up to now. She just said daughter. That's not a fuck up.
When they showed there was a
it makes
male,
you feel like the detective.
when they showed there was a male and a female that like the female deceased, I'm like,
Right.
They're usually movies only tell you, like, they give you these things to throw you off.
Yeah,
So
it's like little breadcrumbs that lead to dead ends.
So I was like,
Expecting detective stories, there's always like red herrings and dead ends, and you wind up with the matchbox that leads to the bar, and then, oh no, nothing happened here after all, and then, oh, then here's the thing over here, and I'm gonna, the trail's hot again. Like,
Yeah.
that shit always happens.
but honestly, I'm personally, like, I can't think of much else to
No,
throw up.
the soundtrack was loud as fuck in that theater.
Yeah.
And it was rattling my skull, and I loved every second of it.
I do like it when the theaters actually can project good sound quality.
Yeah, because it was never distorted, but holy shit, it got loud.
Yeah,
It was
like,
like almost on the edge of uncomfortably loud.
It felt IMAX loud. It was
Yeah.
it almost was IMAX loud in a regular.
But we didn't see it
theater.
IMAX because this wasn't shot on IMAX. And I'm not going to
No.
see it in IMAX unless it was shot on IMAX.
Well, I saw Dunkirk in IMAX, so
But that was shot on IMAX.
it
partially.
was shot on IMAX. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You missed out on a good
I
IMAX
saw
movie,
Dark Knight on IMAX.
but it was only partially IMAX.
But those partial shots were... In fact, it was really disappointing when it went back to the quote-unquote normal movie.
Yeah.
Because you would have this full-picture, crisp image, and it's like, all right, now we're watching a movie on an old-timey TV.
Then is it like letterboxed?
Yeah, it's letterboxed, and it was like kind of fuzzy, and you're like,
Yeah.
this kind of sucks.
But overall, I 100% recommend seeing this movie.
Yeah. Yep, agreed.
It's
Pee beforehand.
yes, pee beforehand.
Try to see it on a big screen if you can. I mean, it'll definitely be great when it's on like Netflix or whatever someday. Catch it on Blu-ray, but I think it's a very visually dense movie. There's a lot of detail and like individual offices. That was another thing I loved is the set direction, the set design.
Everything.
Everything. It's like every piece of filmmaking that I understand as a casual moviegoer, I'm just like, that was good and that was good. Everyone did a good job. Like this movie should not have existed. This movie should not have been good, and it was.
Yeah, and the highlight-
That's just nuts.
And the highlight for me being the cinematography. So if like you're into cinematography, or you're a cinematographer, or you just like beautiful things, go watch this movie because it's a beautiful thing to watch.
And you don't have to have seen the original one. I would recommend it just because I think it is kind of a cult classic.
It helps. It also
definitely helps. It's not necessary. They do a good job of explaining everything you need to know.
Yeah, I like this more than Blade Runner. I like 2049 more than the original.
It's been a while
Blade
since
Runner.
I've seen the first Blade Runner, and as I said before, I have a sordid history with it. But
Ryan, you only watched the theatrical version, so you... I'm like, well, that's the version... Well, I watched the So this theatrical version is better than the other theatrical version. That's much
fair.
I can actually say.
it's been a while, as I said, so with like how I feel right now, yeah, I would prefer the new one, but I don't know. Part of it is it just feels like they just nailed the vision of what the future looked like in the first Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And
It didn't feel like someone trying to copy the style of Blade Runner. It felt like
No, it
someone
felt very
who understood
genuine.
what they were going for in the original, understood the aesthetic of the original and the technology, how it was supposed to be implemented into the story and the world, and they did it really well.
because I think they nailed that 80s retro futurism where it's not...
Sorry, there's an iStock wallpaper of just the guy smiling.
What the
It just changed to that, so
It's just disturbing.
it's just off-putting.
But they nailed a version of the future. Like a lot of Black Mirror episodes are clearly extrapolations off of today, where it's like, what if social media took over our lives and
Yeah.
like et cetera, like things like that. Like
Except Black Mirror is definitely
what's a
more
smartphone gonna look like in 10 years? But this is like, what if Atari and Pan Am and whatever just like still existed and all of our technology were these clunky black boxes? I don't know. I just and there even like smaller details like
The projector being how the hologram had to be an upgrade for it to not exist on the projector, for example.
Right.
Like that technology.
Yep.
Like upgrades. I like that was like, you always think of upgrades for like computers or your TV or your technology in general. Like, for example, if you have a turntable, you want to get speakers with it, or just all this other, anything you can upgrade essentially. With this, it's a cool idea. It's like, oh, we'll sell you this hologram, but then you get to pay extra and you can take it anywhere. It's this hologram on the go. I can picture ads and I can picture how they would sell this to people, and it makes the world that much more believable when they take time to actually think about how this would actually coexist in the environment that they set up.
It gives you that extra sense of what this world is. It also it gives you the exposition on how her robo character works, like physically, practically, which sets up later stuff. And to me, it also gave me a sense of who Kay is, because I don't know, they briefly talk about, okay, like go pick up your bonus or whatever. And you kind of get the sense like, this isn't a guy who's super wealthy. Obviously he has his own apartment in a building full of people just lining the
he had
stairwells.
a really nice, well, the thing is, his apartment was really nice in one of the shittiest buildings I've ever seen.
Right. But I just got the sense that this isn't a guy with a ton of money. Just he has a steady paying job, which most people don't have in this world. And I just assumed that a lot of his income, like his bonus, went to buying this upgrade. Yeah. And maybe that's just me projecting onto him, but
well, I think it definitely was that.
It felt like it made it like this is important to him.
Well, it was the husband coming home with a sweet surprise for his wife.
Right.
It was that version. It was Blade Runner's version of that. Right. Which is, hey, now I can take you anywhere, baby, even though you're not real, but your emotions are. Now, is that another question that the thing begs? Like, so the replicants are so, we're better than humans, blah, blah, blah. But also then you can also start bringing in the holograms, because essentially the holograms are built with emotion and built with. And
you have the prostitute who's just like, like you're not as elegant as you think you are, or whatever she said to her. Yeah. So it's like, there's like, even though the replicants are terribly biased against the society, they also look down on the holograms. That's the point I didn't really think about. Yeah. Which is cool. Which leads to this idea of like, is this just a cycle that'll repeat?
I think, well, that's
replicants win their freedom, and then they look down on the holograms, and the holograms become sentient.
Because we look down on replicants, we think that they obey us. We look at them as technology. We don't look at them as beings, so they're not better than us. They're just great technology. But then on their side, they're better. They are beings, so they are better than us. They are the better version.
I don't even know
humans.
if it's as simple as just, their technology, I look down on it. I think it's, again, that existential question where you look at something that's, for all intents and purposes, human. As a human, it makes you question your own reality, your own existence, because you're like, fuck, are my memories real? Am I a robot? And if I know I'm human, what does that mean? Like, does that make any difference?
Yeah. Because also, like, the point that I was trying to make was just the moral standpoint of like, oh, this isn't a human, so I shouldn't feel bad of having to retire it type of thing. Right. Like, it's business as usual, But if we were talking about a human, then it would be like murder, cold blood, type of thing. Yeah. The narrative or whatever. But yeah. So if you're still listening and can't tell, go see this movie.
Yep. And let us know what you think about it. Yeah. Maybe you're like some friends of ours and you're like, it's too long. But I thought it was very well paced. But you should give it a watch.
Well, Barry, I told Harrison Ford I'd meet him at McDonald's I gotta be there in 5 minutes.
Okay. Tell him I'm a big fan.
That'd be a little.
Can I hang out with him next time?
My Twitter is at Eli Rye McGee.
That wasn't what I asked.
That's ELIRYMAGE.
Can you ask Harrison if we can hang out next time? Because I have a lot of questions about Han Solo.
Sorry, I'm getting a call from
Harrison. Sure. I understand. I'm at Razadupe on Twitter.